Hey, welcome back everyone, and thank you for joining me again as we continue our series on perspective drawing. Now, last week we left off by drawing circles in perspective, and I promised you that we were going to use those circles to make cones and cylinders and arches. So that's going to be what our focus is this week. Cones, cylinders, and arches are all around us, not only in the architectural world, but also in the natural world. They are key forms along with the box to improve your three-dimensional drawings. The best way to draw these forms is to contain them within a box. The reason for that is because straight lines are so much easier to measure than a curved line. So if you draw your boxes and figure out your sizes and your angles first, and then draw the images within them, the forms within them, it really takes the guesswork out of your drawings. Okay? So that is our focus today. So I hope you tune in for the entire video, and let's go ahead and get started. To draw a cone in perspective, we need to start off with a circular base. We need to make sure that the circle is in perspective using the techniques that we learned last week. So first, draw your square in perspective. Then find 12, 3, 6, and 9. You can either use those 4 points to draw your circle, or you can find the additional 4 points if you are more comfortable using the 8-point system. Again, if you're not sure, check out last week's video where I showed you how to do that. Carefully use those points to draw your circle in perspective. Remember that a circle in perspective, it will be an ellipse, and the back of the circle will always look smaller than the front. Now draw a straight line from the center of the circle. That will determine how tall your cone is going to be. And then just connect that to the edges of the circle. Erase the square that you started with, and you are done. To draw a cone on a horizontal format, you're actually going to start with a square that is in a vertical format. Once you have your square drawn out, crisscross to find the center. Then find 12, 3, 6, and 9. Draw your circle. From the center of the circle, draw a 90-degree line, and that will determine where the tip of your cone is going to be. Once you've determined where that tip's going to be, then simply go ahead and attach it to the curves of the circle, the edges of the circle. Alright, now let's draw a cylinder. The best way to draw a cylinder is to start off with a box that is see-through, and make sure that the two ends of the boxes form a square in perspective. Next, you want to find the center of the squares just like we did before, and then use that to find 12, 3, 6, and 9. And then draw your circles on each side of the box. Once your circles are drawn, connect the edges of each of the circles to each other. And then erase the box. Now, because this one looks very correct, this one looks distorted, and that's because it's so far to the left, so close to our 45 and our SP, that it will distort. It's going out, so it's more like looking at it through our peripheral vision. Okay. A vertical cylinder is done exactly the same way, except that this time you have to make sure that the top and the bottom of the box form a square. After that, just follow the same procedures to draw your two circles, and then simply connect them together. All right, so this one was kind of tough because the top of this cylinder is close to the horizon line. If you remember from last week, when we were turning this thing, the more that you turn it, the flatter it looks, to the point where you can barely even see the circle at all. And that's what's happening on the top here. Because we are closer to our horizon line, we can see less and less of this. As you come down away from the horizon line, you're actually seeing something more like this, okay? So you have to trust the process, even though sometimes it doesn't quite look right, it doesn't feel right, but remember that it is correct. Now, if I were to continue this above the horizon line, then I would see it more like this, but instead of pointing up towards the vanishing point, it would be pointing down towards the vanishing point. But what if we wanted to create one that tapers? Okay, so we're going to make this one a little bigger. We're going to make it 3 inches, and we're going to go vertical, and we're going to keep it relatively short, so not to get too much distortion near the top. So let's say that I want this to be tapering. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to decide on this one how much smaller the other one's going to be, the top one's going to be. So from the center, I'm going to go ahead and measure 1 inch in either direction. And I marked it. Now I'm going to take that to the vanishing point. Lightly. Where they cross the diagonal, here, 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 and here, that's going to be the size of the box on the top. So I'm going to go ahead and put it in there so you guys can see it, but really you don't need to. All you need is those 4 points. Okay. Now we need to move it from here up. Okay. And that's pretty much straightforward. You guys know how to do that. It's just a matter of taking those points and making your new box above it. From here on out, the process is exactly the same as what we just finished. So find your center, find 12, 3, 6, and 9 for each one of the boxes. Draw your ellipses, your circles in perspective, and then connect the edges of the small circle to the edges of the big circle. And that's how you get a tapered cylinder. Oh, I almost forgot to show you guys how to make arches. Arches really is just a combination of a cylinder and a box. So here I have a cylinder that's coming towards us in this direction. And all I have to do to turn this into an arch, I'm going to go to 9 o'clock and 3 o'clock and come down. Okay, so here's 9 o'clock, come down. Here's 3 o'clock, come down. Find 3 o'clock on the back one, come down. Okay. Then decide where to cut it off on the bottom. So let's say that I want my arch here, or I can measure. So this becomes the front of the archway. Take that to the vanishing points. Boom. And there's the side. So all I need for the arch is the half circle on the top and the box on the bottom. Okay. Now, if I want it see-through, I would do the same thing here. But since I don't want it see-through, then I only need a quarter of the circle back here. And then it drops down. And then I got to connect the top of the circles together. And there's the arch. Okay. Now, if I want to be able to look inside like a tunnel, then what I need to do, let's switch back to my pencil, is I need to take this inward towards the vanishing point. Like so. And that's what it looks like when you erase the box. Now, let's say that I wanted to create some patterns inside. Then I would line up my vanishing point to that 9 o'clock position. And then, just to show, I'm just going to do one so you can see it. This line would stay straight, just like this, until it gets to this point here, and then it would curve. So it would look something like this here, and then curves. You can do another one, or you can measure these out. Be here, and then this one you could just barely see, and that's all there is to it. Now you can make those lines as tight or as far apart as you want, but by doing it this way, you can see inside of the archway. Another way to do an arch is simply to follow the same procedures, but instead of drawing the entire circle, just draw the top that you need, or the part that you need. So in this case, I only need this top part right here, and this same top part here. The rest of it, you just pull it down, and then you connect the tops together, and that will form your archway. Decide how tall your arch is going to be. Take that to the vanishing points. And then bring this down to complete your arch. And there you go. And just like if you want it to look like it's going inside like we did on the other one, then this is your point. You take this right here, take it in to the left, and let it disappear behind this wall. If you wanted to show the movement here, you would simply go up to about here, and then it would curve. But that's such a small area that I'm not going to do it. But that's it. That's how arches are done. So basically, if you combine a half of a cylinder with a box, you got yourself an arch. Well, that does it for this week's lesson on perspective, cones, cylinders, and arches. The big takeaway from this week is remember that you can draw all of these forms from within boxes. And the reason that we do it from within the boxes is because straight lines are so much easier to measure and to figure out your angles than a curved line. I know all this stuff can seem a little daunting at first, but once you put in a little bit of practice and get used to it, it actually becomes pretty routine after that. So if you have any questions for me, go ahead and leave them in the comments and I will get back to you. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you on the next video.